Welcome to the Anxiety Relief Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Rolfe, the Anxiety Coach, here to help you conquer anxiety and build a calm, confident life. In each episode, we'll explore the tools, stories, and insights to help you take control of anxiety and live life on your terms. Without further ado, let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Anxiety Relief Podcast. Today, we're talking about two really important topics, and this is panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And yes, they are different. If you've ever experienced either of them, you'll know just how frightening they can feel. Your heart will often start racing, your breathing feels strange, and your body can feel all out of control. You can have spiraling thoughts amongst many other symptoms. And in that moment, it can honestly feel like something is seriously wrong. So if you've ever thought, I'm going to collapse, I'm having a heart attack, I'm losing control, I'm going mad, then this episode is for you. Now, let me say this clearly at the start. Panic attacks and anxiety attacks are intense. There's no two ways about it. They are uncomfortable, they are overwhelming, but they are not dangerous. And I know that can seem a big statement, but please stick with me on this and just trust in the process. The panic attacks, the anxiety attacks themselves are not dangerous. Nothing in a panic or anxiety attack can actually harm you. And I know that could be really hard to hear and to believe, most importantly, especially when you're the one in one, right? But today I'm going to explain what's happening in your body, what to do in the moment, and what to do after. So these episodes don't feel controlling and they're not taking over your life. Now, you might hear people talk about panic attacks and anxiety attacks. Some people feel theirs comes out of nowhere, others say it builds up over time. And that is often what can be one of the differences with them. Technically, they should be labelled differently. So a panic attack is usually a sudden and intense one. Yeah, so it's a sudden one that comes on almost out of nowhere. An anxiety attack, however, often builds up from ongoing worry and tension. But ultimately, in real life, they're driven by the same thing, and that's your body's threat system switching on too strongly. So the way you respond is the same for both. Now let's talk about what's actually happening in your body when you have an anxiety attack or a panic attack. So when your brain thinks there's danger, it activates your fight or flight system, right? It releases adrenaline. Adrenaline prepares you to run, fight, or escape. It speeds up your heart, changes your breathing. It can really massively change your breathing, and very quickly, it will redirect your blood around your body. And that can sharpen your senses. But all of that is really useful, right, if you're actually in real danger. Like if you had a tiger or something chasing you, you're going to want all that. However, in a panic attack or an anxiety attack, there is no real danger other than very likely what you've told yourself in your head. The sensations will feel real because they are, and they can be confusing and terrifying. But they are not a danger. Here's an analogy that will help you with this. So imagine you're sitting in your car and someone suddenly beeps their horn, like right next to you, and your heart jumps, your body reacts, and you feel a surge, and that's adrenaline, okay? Now, panic attack is that same response, just switched on without the horn in the first place, right? Now, let's talk about what makes panic and anxiety attacks worse. So there are essentially three main things. And be open and honest with yourself about this and accepting if you're in this kind of phase of it at the moment. Because that's normal, right? We've all been there. We've all tried lots of these things that I'm about to say, but that doesn't mean
that you won't get over it. It just means that stage you're at the moment, right? But this is what most people tend to do. So often they start fighting it or resisting it, checking it, or trying to escape from it. So the fighting it looks like, I need this to stop. I can't cope with this. I must calm down. This actually just creates even more tension. And more tension means even more adrenaline pumping around your body. Checking looks like checking your pulse, monitoring your breathing, or scanning your body, asking yourself, am I okay? Is there something wrong with me? What is wrong with me? This tells your brain something must be wrong. Now, when I talk about escaping, what that generally looks like is, for example, leaving the room, running outside, avoiding places, needing someone to be with you. And this teaches the brain that panic equals danger. All three are understandable, but all three keep that cycle alive. So what do you do instead? Now, this is the obvious question, but it's also not the easiest. And I say this because it can be very easy to sit here and tell you how to get through it, right? But this does come from a place of love and having experienced it myself. Okay, so please don't think I'm trying to minimize what you're going through at the moment. I'm simply trying to help. So what I'm going to give you is a simple panic plan. So 5 steps that you can remember. So if you need to, grab yourself a pen and paper. If not, you've got it on this podcast and you can just replay it as and when you need to. So step 1 is you name it. Okay. You say to yourself, this is a panic attack, or this is an anxiety attack, whichever you feel it is based on what I've explained about them. You tell yourself, this is adrenaline. This is uncomfortable, but not dangerous. And you see, by naming it, that removes the mystery. Yeah. This uncontrollable, this thing we don't know about. So that's step 1. So you name it. The one I prefer personally, I like to say this is adrenaline because it makes much more sense in your head rather than just saying it's uncomfortable, right? But everyone is different. So try which one is most effective for you. So step 2 is to soften your body. And what I mean by this is often we can be holding lots of tension in our shoulders, jaw, tight hands, loads of parts of your body. And often if you kind of take a moment to stop and think, you notice where it is for you. For example, for me, I hold a lot of tension in my jaw. Yeah. So, and that used to be horrendous for me. So that is from monitoring my body. I know that, but it may be different with you. Now, when that happens, really, if you're feeling it in your body, drop your shoulders, relax them. Yeah. Really relax them. Unclench your jaw. So if you notice you're kind of clenching your teeth, just let it drop. Even if it has to just hang open, whatever you need to do. Yeah. Your hands are tight on something, release them. That tension is what tells your brain you're in danger. That's why it's important to do this. So softening tells it you're not, right? Because you wouldn't be chilled out, relaxing, like you're the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something, lying there on a sunbed. If there was, I don't know, you're on a boat sinking and there's great whites around you, great white sharks. Yeah. Like that tells your body you're okay if you're relaxing, right? So that's what we're trying to tell our brain. So when you do that, it stops your brain from telling you that you're in danger. So the softening, so doing that, what I said about releasing the tension from your body, relaxing your shoulders, tells it you're not. And step 3 is slow your breath gently. So that isn't, not suddenly going or anything like that, right? Because that's not gently. Just nice, relaxed, but not forcing it. And ideally through your nose, because it's much more controlled. So you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay. And that can be, if you've learned different breathing techniques before, you may have different ones you use, but this is just to give you one for the purpose of what this podcast is about. Okay. So what I would recommend is you can do 2 seconds in, 4 seconds out. ideally you need to be doing a longer exhale than how long you breathe in for, okay? So 2 seconds in, 4 seconds out when this is happening, just nice and gently. Now, step 4 is about widening your attention. So this means rather than being hyper focused on your body and what you can feel and what you think is going wrong and the thoughts in your mind, instead, you look around, name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch. And that could be literally your clothes, it could be items around you. Whatever you do, then there's always something you can do with these, right? And what that does is that helps ground you. Yeah. And your mind can't do too many things at once. So that will help with them thoughts from going away. And there are other steps you can do to that if you are aware of that technique, but I'm not going to go into all of them because I'm keeping it short and sharp for the purpose of this podcast. But if you want to learn more, obviously I can teach you more on that in another episode, or you can find it on lots of my content in various places online. So step 5 is you do something normal. So this can literally be anything. It can be sipping some water, staying seated where you are. Yeah, so not running away from it. Walking, so keeping on walking. Carry on talking to whoever you were talking to. Now, it doesn't mean obviously arguing or whatever, that's talking, yeah? Normal behaviour. And that normal behaviour will teach safety. So just carrying on and doing something that you would normally do if it wasn't happening, right? You don't need to do all 5 of them steps perfectly. Literally, 1 or 2 is enough. And the goal is not necessarily at this stage to be stopping the panic, okay? Because if you try too hard, like to really stop it, it's going to be like hitting a brick wall, especially if you've been having them for a long, long time. But we're looking for gradual improvement. You're far better to aim to improve 1% per day than to try and think you're unrealistically going to beat it in a day and then not, okay? Now, whilst there are ways of tackling it super fast and beating it, you ideally need to be kind of mentored through that and taught various techniques to get through it in such a way, okay? So I'll keep in this nice and I would say easy, but it isn't easy, but I'll keep in it in a way that you can just feel you make some progress rather than none, yeah? Or it getting worse. Any progress is better than it getting worse or just staying the same, isn't it? Yeah? Consistency in time is the biggest healer for this. The goal is to stop feeding it. And when you do stop feeding it, it will pass on its own because adrenaline always runs dry. It will always run out. Always. Now let's talk about the part that most people miss. What to do after a panic attack. Often this is where panic can like creep back in and come back, right? But after a panic attack, people will often replay it and go back through what happened. They start Googling on their phone about, various symptoms, analyze the whole situation or every sensation that they had at the time, right? They might go and ask people for reassurance or then decide that from now on, they're going to avoid that situation so it doesn't happen again. Now that teaches the brain that the event was dangerous. What happened to you was dangerous. And that makes it stay alert. And also logs it in that filing cabinet memory that this is a problematic event for you. Yeah. What happened? We want to avoid that at all costs. And this often happens with people who are driving. So for example, if you've ever had an accident or you nearly had one or something happened that caused you a bit of panic while you're driving, and often, for example, on a motorway, then this is often what happens to people. And they then start avoiding it. The brain's replayed it in their mind and actually it then logs it so that it's trying to stop you from doing that again in future. It's keeping it alert. But what you want to do instead is this. Acknowledge it. Confirm to yourself, yeah, that was uncomfortable. But then you move on. And by move on, I mean you return to doing as you would have done normally. So you don't avoid it, you don't review it, don't investigate it, don't give it extra meaning that isn't there. Starve it of that attention. Starve it of that attention. So really, really stop feeding it. Otherwise, the thoughts you have when you're Googling things, it's like adding fuel to it. the fuel to the fire, and that's what anxiety needs to keep going. Starve it of that attention. And here's the truth. Panic and anxiety attacks stay when they're treated like emergencies. They fade when they're treated like false alarms. I want to speak now to the person who fears the next one. That fear is often worse than the attack itself. You start scanning your body, watching your body, waiting for it. And that keeps your system activated. Instead, practice this thought. I've had this before, and I've always been okay. Now, this isn't to convince yourself, it's to remind yourself. Every time you respond calmly, you are retraining your nervous system. Every time you stay instead of escaping, you build confidence. Every time you allow instead of fight, you weaken the panic. Let me leave you with this. Panic attacks feel powerful, but they are powerless without your fear. They cannot hurt you. They cannot control you. They can pass through you, but you don't have to stay stuck with them and fearing them forever. If this episode helped, you're very welcome to join my free community over on Facebook, which is the Anxiety Relief Hub. Just search that in the group section and you will find it. You can also download my free ebook, which is the Anxiety Relief Roadmap. And you can find that on my website, which is www.rossrolf.com. And if you found this useful, please follow the podcast and leave a rating. I will absolutely love you even more than I already do if you do that, because it helps push it out to even more people. And then you will be in a part of helping change someone else's life. You are stronger than panic. You are safer than you think. And you are learning every day. I believe in every single one of you. You've got this. And I'll speak to you in the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to the Anxiety Relief Podcast. I hope today's episode left you feeling a little more calm, confident, and in control. Remember, small steps every day can lead to a big transformation in your life. If you found this episode helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who you think might benefit. For more tools and resources, head over to my website at www.rossrolf.com. And don't forget to join the Anxiety Relief Hub on Facebook, which is a supportive community where you can connect, share, and grow. Until next time.